The Pope would then begin to draft his new battle plans, as Luna would sit there and watch, as she would send telepathic signals straight to Barou, as Barou would start to get all the information. As Barou and his army continued to expand, he continued to thrive. As the Pope was becoming desperate, he needed a new supreme commander. He needed someone to take Borough's old place, but he simply didn't know who. The Pope also didn't want to fight a two-front war, so the Pope decided to deal with the rebels himself, as he got up and began to fly there. We cut to the monarchist, as Commander Ludendorff, the king of humanity, kept on expanding. No one else was with him, except for his soldiers. You see, the rebels are made up of two different factions, the radicals and the monarchists, but the radicals weren't there. Vanessa wasn't there. As he realized something, she set him up. As he would look around, suddenly the Pope would fly down. It would all begin to click. She must have betrayed him. She must have knew that the Pope would get fed up and try to fight him on his own. So, she didn't send her forces, so when he's dead, she can lead the rebellion. As King Ludendorff would look at the Pope and say, "This has been a long time coming," the Pope would laugh and say, "It has, hasn't it? Your father died by my hand. It only makes sense that you would die too, Ludendorff." As suddenly, the entire ground would shake, as Ludendorff would begin to summon waves and waves of electricity. 100,000 volts of electricity would hit the Pope, as Ludendorff would yell, "Die! Die! Die!" As then the Pope just stand there and saying, "You just yelled die like a pathetic child. You really are pathetic." As the Pope would slowly walk towards King Ludendorff, suddenly his hand would start to burn up, as King Ludendorff had sun hands, where he made his fist as hot as the sun, as then he would move and break the sound barrier, as he would punch the Pope over and over and over again into all of his weak points, pushing him with the heat. But it did nothing, as the Pope simply said, "You're like a child, you know that? Truly pathetic." As suddenly, he would slightly move his hand. As then, King Ludendorff's arm would fall off. As then he would start to yell as he regrew it. As then the Pope would laugh. And King Ludendorff would say, "What? You have a healing factor? You really limited yourself. The fact that you have a healing factor means you've lost." The king would say, "What are you talking about? Your body uses a lot of magic to heal. You have a choice. Make a healing factor or make strong skin. Strong skin cannot be impervious to everything, but to weak, pathetic attack like yours, it can easily manage. And doesn't use nearly as much magic. The fact that you made your body make a healing factor means you've limited yourself. And you call yourself a magic user? That's simply pathetic," the Pope would say. As then King Ludendorff would say, "Shut up!" As then he would swing his sword at him, a sword made so strong that it can cut diamond itself. As he would swing it and hit him with it over and over and over, the Pope simply smiled and said, "Wow, as much as I want to keep fighting you, I don't want this pathetic disarray to last." As he snapped his fingers, suddenly a cross appeared, as everyone was crucified except for him. As the rest of his soldiers would start to cry in terror and fear, King Ludendorff would say, "This isn't over!" As he would charge at the Pope would say, "It is." As suddenly, a light would appear for a split second, as King Ludendorff would fall to the ground and begin to cough up. As then the Pope said, "I simply canceled your healing factor. I put harmful toxins in your body. Now your body will try to heal it over and over again, as you'll be in a constant state of pain until you eventually die from overloading." As then the Pope flew away. As he looked around, "Why didn't you guys attack?" The soldiers said, "We knew it wouldn't do anything." As they all died. As then King Ludendorff would fall down. After hours of battling this poison, after hours of being in constant pain, he would die. As then Rex, the Nexorcist, would walk out. As Rex, the Necromancer, would look down at King Ludendorff's body, this is what he planned, as he hid his power and waited off and hid. As he grabbed the body and then went back to his base. As he built a secret base below ground, as he would throw down King Ludendorff and begin to extract his soul. Since King Ludendorff was extremely powerful, this would take a while. But with his soul, he could absorb his power, and he can build an entire army of the undead. As Rex was doing this, we cut to someone else. Someone that was just a low-level general, a general of a small garrison, MacArthur. With Borough's army quickly seizing land, he wouldn't be able to attack it and be there for every battle. So one of his chieftains was there, the Lizard Man, who led an army to take this small city. As MacArthur had an idea how to defend it, he had a few steam tanks, so what he did was paint cars white and make them look like steam tanks. You see, cars were very rare and only nobles had them, but there were a few nobles in town. He was able to make that look like they had more tanks than they actually did. Since the Lizard Man would use bats to fly from above and look down, they wouldn't have the best view, as they would use echolocation to try to sense where things were, and he was able to use that to his advantage and make cars look like tanks, as he would put all the fake tanks in front of the castle, as then the real ones would be in the back, making him go try to attack the back flank. This was all part of MacArthur's plan, and at the same time he had his snipers actually leave the castle and hide in bushes near the back, so they could snipe them as they come in. Even with this plan, there was no guarantee for victory, but he figured that this might be the only way to win. As then we cut back to the Lizard Man, Frank. As Frank heard this, he then decided to lead his army from the back to attack the castle from behind. As the soldiers would go in and attack the castle, they would easily destroy the wall. As they came in though, the steam tanks would fire from the sides, flanking them. As the men did a flanking maneuver, this would push them out for a while, but MacArthur knew the army was too big for him to win by destroying them all. He needed to go after targets, like the central command center, as the snipers would then go after the generals and the commanders, the people in charge, making their flank weakened, as MacArthur had his forces push out. As this caused the army not to know what to do, so they retreated. This shocked everyone, especially Frank. Frank was angry. Monsters were taught the fight. Monsters were taught with strength for everything. But they were so used to winning battle after battle, they weren't used to this hardship. As then Frank would get so angry, he would order the city to be burnt down, as he would light bats on fire and have them charge into the buildings, burning it to the ground, as Frank got out to fight. Little did he know this is what MacArthur planned for. He knew Frank was a prideful person, and that he would try to fight himself with the worst tactics. MacArthur built a little bunker below the town for all the soldiers to hide in, as then the army would begin to march over it, as this was their one chance to assassinate Frank. MacArthur would have a sniper. This bullet was made to kill magical beings. It wouldn't work on high-level beings like the Pope or Barou, or even beings that could come back to life like Nixon, but a chieftain like Frank, this would work. As in, MacArthur would hide in a building, as he would wait for Frank to walk over, as he made sure Frank thought all the soldiers were gone. As MacArthur would stay on the building and snipe Frank, as soon as Frank fell, all the soldiers would rise up from the bunker and attack them, flanking them, surround them, doing anything they can, screaming, making loud noises, setting things on fire. As he would run around and make sure the enemy didn't know how many of them there were, the armies fled, as MacArthur was victorious. As this victory would not go unnoticed, as MacArthur's army was prepared to continue to defend. He knew this trick wouldn't work more than twice. If Barou or a better general came, he would lose. But MacArthur wouldn't get reinforcements. His town wasn't that important. However, something unexpected would happen. A crow would fly down and say, "MacArthur, we saw your great victory and decided to send reinforcements to the town. This will be a great front against Barou." MacArthur would say, "Thank you. And there's more. The Pope himself is coming in a day." MacArthur was shocked. Most of these soldiers were either radical or simply fighting because they were forced to fight. MacArthur was neither. MacArthur actually enjoyed battle. MacArthur enjoyed proving he was a great commander. But MacArthur despised the Pope. The Pope could have gotten rid of the rebels ages ago, but he simply uses them as a sideshow to control people. The Pope is not a commander. MacArthur wanted the world to be owned by the military. He wanted a true commander. Even though Barou could give that, he sided with them because this is his home and he'll fight to defend his home, even if he disagrees with it. As the crow would tell him this, MacArthur would nod. As a day would pass, as the Pope himself would walk to MacArthur.